Hey everyone, Warwick's here. So we're back with another singer reaction video. This one, of course, from Geoff Castellucci. If you haven't been able to tell by now, I'm going to adjust this camera just slightly. There we go. If you haven't been able to tell by now, Geoff Castellucci, my favorite singer on the planet right now. I just love listening to this man in voice play. I love listening to this man in solo covers, many of which I have on a playlist that I keep private to myself. That is just basically all a bunch of voice play Geoff stuff. So today, he recently released in the last couple of days, Big Iron, which is originally by Marty Robbins, was released back in 1959. This is a country western song. Now, Geoff has done a few of these in the past with 16 Tons, with Big John. Big Iron now adds to that list. He's done Folsom Prison Blues. This is kind of something that Geoff does in a lot of his solo work, is touch on a lot of the country western music. Now, if you watch any of my videos on this type of genre, you'll know that country western music is a genre of music that I particularly do not care about. It's not something I was raised on. It's not something I enjoy. But even in songs like Ain't No Sunshine and 16 Tons and Folsom Prison Blues, there are always things that Geoff does that I really enjoyed and appreciated. So I'm sure that's going to be the case here. Of course, we're getting our 5 Geoff setup, which is something that he's been going to a little bit more recently. So I'm very curious as to how this is going to pan out for us here. So I'm obviously not familiar with the song. I did a little bit of research on the song Big Iron before hitting record on this. So that's how I know. So we're going to see what Geoff does with this. For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. For those of you veterans of the channel, welcome back. My name is Corey. I go by Warwick's on all the social channels because that is my online gaming name. Started doing these videos back in 2022. It's just as a way to have a creative outlet, and I enjoyed music, and I like breaking down music and analyzing music. So that's why I'm doing these, inspired by Peter Barr, the Bass Gang, to really kind of give it a go, using a lot of his structure that he uses in his videos and tweaking it for my needs. If you've never seen one of my videos, basically I go through and I do a full first listen through. I've never seen this video before. So you're going to get my first watch with my dumbass face here in the bottom left of your corner of your screen, reacting to everything that's going on. And then I do a second listen through where we'll do pausing. I'll break down things that I think are really interesting, really cool, ask questions that maybe I don't know about because I'm not part of the Patreon yet. Still a lot of things going on that are preventing that for the time being. So yeah, I always encourage in comments on this. I read every single one that comes through. At the very least, I like if I don't respond. I like all the comments. If you look at any of my reaction videos, you'll see, recent ones at least, you'll see that I do that. So definitely engage with me. If you like what I'm doing here, subscribe to the channel. I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Would love to get there before the end of the year. So without further ado, let's get into this. This is Big Iron from Geoff Castellucci, a low bass singer cover. Make sure this is cranked up a little bit more so we can get some good volume on it.
To the town of our free rode a stranger one fine day. Hardly spoke to folks around him, didn't have too much to say. Well, no one dared to ask his business, no one dared to make a slip, for the stranger there among them had a big iron on his hip, a big iron on his hip. Well, it was early in the morning when he rode into the town. Came riding from the south side, slowly looking all around. He's an outlaw, listen, running came the whisper from each lip, and he's here to do some business with a big iron on his hip, a big iron on his hip. Big iron. He's a stranger that rode into town one day. Big iron. Here to do some business, then be on his way. In this town there lived an outlaw by the name of Texas Red. Many men had tried to take him, and that many men were dead. He was vicious and a killer, though a youth of 24, and the notches on his pistol numbered 1 in 19 more, 1 in 19 more. Now the stranger started talking, made it plain to folks around. Was an Arizona Ranger, wouldn't be too long in town. He came here to take an outlaw back alive, or maybe dead, and he said it didn't matter, he was after Texas Red. after Texas red, big iron. Like the dust that's blowing through this border town, yeah. Big iron. He will chase the storm and take old Texas down. Wasn't long before the story was relayed to Texas red, but the outlaw didn't worry, man, they tried before we're dead. 20 men had tried to take him, 20 men had made a slip. 21 would be the ranger with the big iron on his head. Now the morning passed so quickly, it was time for them to leave. It was 20 past 11 when they walked out in the street. Folks were watching from the windows, everybody held their breath. They knew this handsome ranger was about to meet his death, about to meet his death. There was 40 feet between them when they stopped to make their play, and the swiftness of the ranger is still talked about today. Texas red had not cleared leather for a bullet fairly ripped, and the ranger's aim was deadly with a big iron on his hip. Big iron on his head. Big iron. He's a stranger that rode into town one day. Big iron. Here to do some business, then be on his way. Big iron. Keep on rolling till his life is gone. It was over in a moment and the folks had gathered round. There before them lay the body of the outlaw on the ground. Well, he might have gone on living, but he made one fatal slip when he tried to match the ranger with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip.
There's a long outro here. Let's look.
Hey everyone, Geoff here. Thanks for watching Big Iron. I hope you enjoyed this updated version of such a classic tune. Special shout out goes to some of the folks on Patreon who make these videos possible. Holdra Draco, Temma Krempley, Juliana Livingston, Diane Holland, Sarah Borzilli, Sarah O, Lori Templeman, Laura Mueller, Patricia Schumann, Debbie Goodling, Jordy S, A.M. Person, Carl and Melanie Thomas, Asa Lagnestall, Dorothy Brune, and Debs Badger. If you'd like to join the Patreon community to get a whole bunch of extras, click on the link on the screen or below to sign up for free. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.
Okay. Very cool. Like I said, country western music, not a genre that I grew up on, not a genre that I listened a lot to. I still don't listen a lot to it. So maybe the impact that that song has on maybe some of you that did grow up on that is a little bit different. To me, this was just a really fun cover of a song that actually is kind of, I think it's kind of a genius actually in a lot of ways. I'm talking about if I'm getting the story of this song wrong, please correct me. But the story that I got based off of just a pure one listen through was there was a U.S. Ranger of some kind chasing down a notorious Texas Red villain, and basically he was kind of unknown to a lot of people, so it's potentially even questionable that he was even in the Rangers, it sounds like. History brain in my, of course, started going off while I was listening to Geoff's Patreon thanks there at the end, in that immediately, now admittedly Western U.S. history, U.S. Old West history is not my forte. I studied a lot of really Revolutionary War to early like 1850s. That was kind of the time period in American history that I specialized in. I truly kind of specialized in military history. That's like my major thing. Studied a lot of battles across multiple time periods across the world. So my knowledge based on this is not deep. I'd have to do some research on it. I don't know of any immediate real life correlations that are out there. I mean, there's obviously stories of the old West bandits that became notorious, but I'm not recalling any of them off the top of my head. So don't know if this has any sort of true indications of like actual events that happened, or any are supposed to mimic or represent actual people that lived out in that area in that time frame. But overall, just was a really but the song itself, like I said, I actually really enjoyed the lyrics. I don't necessarily enjoy the delivery of it, but the story that that song told was really interesting to me, actually. So kudos. I found maybe a country western song that I can listen to more than once. Really enjoyed this version of it. So thank you, Geoff, for doing that. If this is the end of the video for you, because you're only here for the first reaction, thanks for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. For those of you that like to stick around and watch the full video and watch me get in and dive nerdy about this, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to do before we actually go back into any song is I want to know, is this background, obviously we get the lights, which is something that Geoff has been implementing a lot in his solo work lately. Is that background truly just a white wall and there's like a projector from the ceiling? Because the one thing that I find most impressive is that there are no shadows of the Geoffs on the wall. Now, I don't know if that was edited out or whatever the case may be, but the only other thing that can tell me is that this is a high roof that he's sitting in, and they were able to project down all the images in the background, or it is true pure green screen, and off we go. But my gut tells me, because this wasn't filmed at Patty Cake, that this is actually just a big white wall, and they just have a projector hung up that did this old style film with a bunch of scenes from, I don't know if it's stock footage, old stock footage, whatever the case may be, of the Old West. So I really enjoyed that. I think the chair choices here actually are pretty interesting. The green stands out in a way that differentiates it from his shirts, but is like noticeable to someone paying attention. And then of course the old beat up chair, the leather looking like it's torn off and stuff like that. Again, it's probably by design, but ultimately, hey, all I'm saying is those chairs look comfy. That's what I got. So let's get into the actual song now.
To the town of our free rode a stranger one fine day. Hardly spoke to folk.
So, real quick, I want to know if the footage back here was like, how did he acquire it? Is it something that the studio just had on hand, or did they have to buy some rights? Like, if you know, or if he explains that on his Patreon or anything like that, let me know. I'm curious. Because, like, this area kind of, I mean, obviously it's mountainous, so it kind of reminds me of what potentially could be, God, I'm thinking, come on, geography, don't fail me now. In reality, this could be, like, Wyoming, Western Colorado, Utah type area before the resorts took it over. Like, these are all, that's like kind of the area that I get the vibe from just looking at this and kind of thinking about the geography of the area.
Rode a stranger one fine
Potentially Arizona, but that'd have to be the Grand Canyon area, which is not in the Rocky Mountains.
day. Hardly spoke to folks around him, didn't have too much to say. Well, no one dared to ask his business, no one dared to make a slip. For the stranger there among them had a big iron on his hip, a big iron on his hip.
So right there, with the second big iron on his hip, does Geoff double track himself here, or is that technically to Geoff singing that? It's hard to tell. I love when he does this, because he did it. The first time I heard him do it, was in Reigns of Castamere, on Lord of Castamere. And, like, it legitimately gave me goosebumps the first time I heard it, and it didn't have the same effect on it, but it still caught me off guard, because I love it. And obviously I have a very heavy emotional investment in a song like Reigns of Castamere, because I'm a avid Game of Thrones fan. Whereas this song, I don't really have like an emotional connection to it. So other than just appreciating the cool musical things to it, like, I don't know. I think it's just how my brain works. The other thing that I really like is that one thing about Geoff and his arrangements is that he always likes to use, in his solo covers, he uses a lot of instrumentation, because if he wants to do a cappella, he just do it with voice play. He said this before. But there's always an instrument that gives that sense of drive. And here we're getting this acoustic guitar, almost like banjo type instrument here in the background.
Hey, well, no one dared to ask his business. No one dared to make.
Yeah, it's acoustic guitar, but it's being played in such a way that it's not giving a lot of note definition. It's actually giving a lot of almost like the scraping sound on it. And it's the instrument that is giving this song its initial drive. And Geoff is all about giving his solo work a sense of momentum the entire way through, and rarely does he pull it back. But even when he does pull it back in something like Unshaken, which he did, there's still this sense of drive. There's something going on in the background that gives it like this sense that there's still something coming. And Geoff's really, really good about doing that, making sure his covers don't feel like they're stalling out, which I've heard from some other covers that happen where either they try to do too much and it feels like chaos, or they do too little and it feels like it's stalled out. So Geoff always finds that really, really nice balance. One thing I also really enjoy is, generally speaking, with Geoff covers, what he does is his additional voices, additional Geoffs, will, generally speaking, in a lot of his early work and a lot of his more recent work, is that they will always establish their voices in some form or fashion fairly quickly into the song. And here they don't do that. They're sitting quiet here we're up to like 20 seconds now, and the song's been going for about 10 at this point, and they haven't said a single thing yet. So it's really, really nice to know that these Geoffs are going to come in, but they haven't established their voices yet, and they're just giving the space for lead line Geoff to shine.
A slip, for the stranger there among them had a big iron on his hip, a big iron on his hip.
And I really like what sounds like potentially a full octave drop from the beginning to the transition into this phase. Just really cool stuff.
Well, it was early in the morning when he rode into the town.
And then get here, again, the voices don't actually get established until now we have drums being added into it with that quarter note kick, that boop, 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 just adding that sense of progression and momentum into it. And then we get oohs to start it. With Geoff, always starts in on oohs or ums. Or occasionally, like he did with Unshaken was Misty Mountains was or in this case, or they would thing like that. He never starts these extra voices on like ahs, because then at that point there's not really anywhere else to go with the sound. Whereas oohs, uhs, those are narrower in their diction, and so it gives you room to grow with your backgrounds, and it also still doesn't do anything to cover up the lead line. Really just smart way to start any piece if you're singing multiple parts.
He came riding from the south side, slowly looking all around. Easing down, now listen, running came the whisper from each lip. Then he's here to do some business with a big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip.
So I don't know if this is just the lip syncing thing, but I doubt that Geoff is looking like that while saying subharmonic, like juicy subharmonic hip. The other thing I've noticed, at least so far, is that anytime he says big iron on his hip, he drops down into that, first octave range, kind of establishing that line as something that is kind of always going to stand out. And then we get, of course, our essentially what sounds like four tenors.
On his hip, big iron on his hip. He's a stranger that rode into town one day. Here to do some business, then be on his way. In this town there
We get ourselves a nice little long slide transition before we get into a Geoff tenor that, outside of the Peaches short, I haven't heard this high, at least that I'm immediately thinking of on a sustained basis. I mean, we had like Amidst the Crash of the World belt, but this feels like very comfortable, like chest borderline mix singing that he's about to start here. Really, really cool stuff.
lived an outlaw by the name of Texas Red.
I love the visual and lyrical stuff matching up. I'm a sucker for that sort of thing. We get Texas Red. We get a guy that looks like an outlaw covered in red light. Just fun stuff.
Many men had tried to take him, and that many men were dead. He was vicious and a killer, though.
And again, these visuals, you see the duel going on as they pan out after many men were dead. And then we're getting this, which makes him look like he's a vicious killer, of course, with his long barrel gun.
24, and the notches on his pistol numbered 1 in 19 more. 1 in 19 more.
Oh, God. The harmony there just sounded so rich. Like, that's the best way to describe it in my view, is it just sounds rich. Just sounds so rich. It's incredible. Really, really enjoyable. Like, that's kind of the first time the first time you saw me outside of his ridiculous subharmonic on Big Iron. Like, you saw me kind of tilt my head a little bit. Just, God, those harmonies were just, they touched a part of my brain that just really, really enjoyed it. So I want to listen to it one more time and then we'll move on.
1 in 19 more.
It's really nice because we're getting this, like, there's a bass to it, but it's not a low, like, super beefy low chest note. It's just this really, like, borderline baritone, and then what sounds like 2 other baritones, and then there's 1 high voice to round out that fullness sound. And I'm a sucker for, like, I love baritone singing because that's probably where my natural range falls into, and be able to have that is like just, it's just nice. I love chords that and harmonies that sit in that type of range. So in a way, Geoff kind of wrote this for me, and I like it.
Now the stranger started talking, made it plain to folks around. Was an Arizona ranger, wouldn't be too long in town. He came here to take an outlaw back alive. I
really love what the supporting voices do here, is they do these high ooh, and like you can distinctly hear them like making that effort to emphasize that last note and making it super staccato, like right here, right there you saw it. Let me go back just a few seconds one more time. Listen to the harmony of the background parts.
Folks around. Was an Arizona ranger, wouldn't be too long in town. He came here.
And same thing here, that they go whoop and drop into the note. So there's that half note of silence from the harmonies as Geoff is moving on with the lead chord line, and they join him on this. I really like that. I like that as a composing and arrangement standpoint. Keeps, again, this sense of momentum, and this is something that is very prevalent in Geoff covers. But it just also just makes the lyrics less boring in a way, because, I mean, Geoff singing it the whole way through, I'm sure there are people out there that are like, I would just listen to Geoff sing lead lines all day long. I probably could do that as well. But occasionally, when you have a guy that's got a range like his and the talent that he has, show it off. And adding all these other voices to this lead line and harmonizing it all, it's just a nice little change of pace almost in the song.
Here to take an outlaw back alive, or maybe dead. And he said it.
Did he double track the bass there again? Like, I'm curious because he does this a few times in this song and it gets me every time. I love it.
He came here to take an
right here,
back alive, or maybe dead. And he said it didn't matter. He was after Texas Red. After Texas Red.
Nice little. I don't know if that actually could have been chest. It's hard to tell for me. Like, I don't know if that's a sub. I mean, he could probably do it chest. I had to do a little bit of subharmonic work there, or at least like chest fry. So nice fat. Sounds like a G1. It's my guess. If I'm wrong, please tell me. The note at round 157. Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Like the dust that's blowing through this border town. Yeah.
Also, Geoff's thing that he's been doing lately, ever since really Ghost Riders of the Sky, adding these random yes or come-ons in his songs.
He will chase the storm and take old Texas down. Wasn't long before the storm.
Again, that slide down, nice.
Story was related to Texas Red, but the outlaw didn't worry. Men that tried before were dead. 20
Oh, I forgot about that. So I love, again, Geoff here. We're feeling more belty with this line that Geoff just center right here is doing. And then it transitions into this. It sounds almost like a key change, like we're going from a major to minor, vice versa. But it's definitely a key change of some kind, because like what they transition to here is like really, really interesting. But I really love, of course, Geoff showing off the range. Like, God, just super, pretty clean high notes. Like, obviously not, Ellie Caesar levels that you see out of voice play, but like for a bass, like he's showing off pretty good high range. I know he has comfortably a 3-octave range. With extended techniques, I think he can get to 4, if I recall. So like, I shouldn't be surprised by this, but like, I'm kind of surprised at just how clean it sounds. It's really, really nice. So kudos, Geoff.
Wasn't long before the story was relayed to Texas Red, but the outlaw didn't worry, man, that tried before we're dead. 20 men had tried to take him, 20 men had made a slip.
It's maybe not a key change, it's just the addition of bass here really changes the way that this feels. Like this section right here just feels a lot more tense. Almost like it's disharmony in a way, but there's this tension that gets added here that is really, really good, and like, again, like appeals to like my musical sense, and like it's just smart composing, frankly. But yeah, if you know exactly what he does here, is it a key change or is it just a purposely discordant line somewhere in here? Like, I'm not exactly sure, but something changes right here at around the 220 mark that just tickles me, makes me happy.
Forward dead, 20 men had tried to take him, 20 men had made a slip. 21 would be the ranger with the big iron on his head.
And another big iron on his hip. Again, we're getting that low bass, but of course harmony this time because it's appropriate.
Now the morning passed so quickly, it was time for them to leave. It was 20 past 11 when they walked out in the street. Folks were watching from the windows, everybody held their breath. They knew this handsome ranger was about to meet his death, about to meet his death. There was 40 feet between them when they stopped to make their play, and the swiftness of the ranger is still talked about today.
Again, right there, that like, it sounds like he's purposely like prepping you to do a little bit of a key change. Just like, my musical knowledge is going because I'm tired, guys. It's been a long weekend. It's been a long 10 days. But like, it feels off, but doesn't feel off, if that makes sense.
Texas Red had not cleared leather for a bullet fairly ripped, and the ranger's aim was deadly with a big iron on his hip, big iron on his head.
Right there, it sounds like he's double tracking his bass again, which is just, God, it's so good sounding.
Big iron. He's a stranger that rode into town one day. Big iron. Here to do some business, then be on his way. Big iron.
Yeah, that's that thick, low chest note. Just dumb. And he knows it too. Look at that smile. And then we got our high belts. Like, we're just seeing all of his range in like 5 seconds. It's amazing.
He will keep on rolling till his life is gone.
Again, all the way up until the last kind of syllable of gone. Like, these last couple of notes. Sounds like he's double tracking there. It's just, it is so cool.
It was over in a moment and the folks had gathered round. There before them lay the body of the outlaw on the ground. Well, he might have gone on living, but he made one fatal slip.
when he tried to match the Ranger with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip.
Yeah, very clearly subharmonic to end there. Just, yeah, this was, like I said, just fun song, man. Like, I really enjoyed this, and there's just a lot of little things that he did with double tracking and with his range and his key changes that he did, and some of his, like, harmonies that had just enough discord in them that you notice it, but it doesn't sound bad. Like, this was a really, really interesting arrangement. I think this was fun to listen to. Definitely some things I'm asking if I miss anything, like throw them in the comments. I'd love to know, because like this arrangement intrigues me to know kind of more about how he approached it, where something like Unshaken, which I still think is his best solo project work that he's ever done, like that one I kind of understand a lot of what he did, and it's just execution of it was amazing, and then the scene and setting of it all probably influenced it all with it being a video game track. But this one, like, I'm really curious to more like almost dive nuts and bolts into this if I ever could. And I'm sure if I can join the Patreon one day, I will. I'm sure there's like posts that go more nuts and bolts into his arrangement pieces. But if you have anything that stood out to you about it, make sure you throw it down in the comments below. I appreciate you sticking along with me if you've come this far. We did a 20-minute analysis, 10-minute first listen, or 7-minute first listen through roughly. So that's about standard for my videos for when it comes to Geoff and voice play. So if you liked and enjoyed this, remember to like, share, and subscribe, guys. Again, I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I do have a Patreon. This has actually appeared first on Patreon before showing up on YouTube. So if you are interested in that, I do have a $3 tier. That's the one I recommend you do. Because $5 tier, I don't, as of this recording, I don't have any good extended rewards for. Working on that. So I'll be doing this. I do my musical breakdown. If you want to listen to me nerd out about video game music, you can find it over there on Patreon first. So definitely check that out. I'll put a link in the description. Until the next video, I hope you all stay safe. Hope you enjoy yourself. You're having fun. You're listening to great music. We'll see you next time.